there's a lot of people who are going to experience immense suffering in their life. Um, and that's inevitable for everybody, but this is an avoidable suffering, suffering that they're blindly setting themselves up for. Welcome. This is the Hype Mind. If you haven't had a chance to be introduced to us, and I'm Drew. Uh, what am I talking about? What am I getting at? So, I have become increasingly aware of the number of people who I've experienced who have this belief that you can just, it's kind of like the retirement myth. You can just put your time in and then the rest of your life will be good. You can do your 20 years at your job and then get your monthly paycheck. You can do your commitment, your contract, your promised, your promised peace, and you'll get what the reward you were promised. Um, I think that that's an easy trap to fall into, but I think people don't realize that it's a trap because the reality is you were born with a purpose, um, and that purpose was to carry a weight that a weight that is very heavy, but no heavier than one you would be able to bear. It was specifically designed for you to bear. Think about it in terms of like the gym, right? There's an amount of weight that everybody can lift, 50 pounds, 60 pounds, maybe 25 pounds, right? And it's a heavy weight, and you can pick it up, but many people choose not to because it's uncomfortable to lift, right? And that's your purpose in life is to bear that weight. Life is a challenge. That's a pretty universally agreeable idea. Um, but what am I getting at? So, like I mentioned, I've noticed this with a lot of people I've spoken to, met, work with. They have this belief that they're just going to do their time they committed to doing their 20 years, their 10 years, their 30 years, and then they're just going to hang loose for the rest of their life. And the reality is that that doesn't work. And now you might disagree at first because it's what's been promised to you. Or you might disagree because you've seen it work for people in the past. But the reality is that a society can't survive like that. Maybe you do know someone who military service is a great example. Who did their 20 years in the military, and they got their nice fat paycheck, and they continually get it for their service. And I'm grateful for their service for sure. But what I'm getting at is that's not how the world works. You can't survive the rest of your life, and the world can't survive its existence on people who think they can just put in part time, put in a certain amount of sacrifice and then reap the benefits for the rest of their life. It doesn't work like that. Um, the reality is trouble's coming. Trouble's always coming. War is always on the horizon. The enemy is always just beyond the walls. Um, and so the more people who believe that they can just live out their life like that, the system eventually falls. Life's a cycle. It is doomed to repeat itself. History is doomed to repeat itself. Life's a cycle, so it's doomed to go back into the lapses of very observable suffering. Um, you can take the state of the world during World War II as an example. The number of people who said these things aren't going to happen. They said I can go about my daily life and things will be normal, and it didn't. You have to stop the you have to stop that belief from growing in your mind, and you have to stop the the evil of the world as you see it around you. You can't let it exist. You can't just do your 20 and get your money and pretend that the rest isn't there, because evil always grows. So what's the bigger point that I'm driving towards here is there's no such thing as a simple life. You can't just You can't just work your 40-hour work weeks for 20 years and then retire and spend the next 30, 40, 50 years of your life in retirement or working easy. That's not what you were created for. That's never been the way of the world. Thanks to a lot of our advancements, it seemed like it's the way of the world. It seems like it'll work. But, you know, things only hold down for so long. So you need to be aware that darkness is just beyond the gates. It is just on the other side of the wall or just over the hill, and it is always pressing forward. And that's why you need to shoulder the load, right? Life wasn't meant for you to walk around with a comfortable weight. If you're comfortable in life, I promise you, much worse is going to catch up to you at some point. You weren't meant to live life comfortably, unfortunately. And I don't say that because I wouldn't wish that for you, but the reality is you were created to shoulder your load, and your load is heavy and it is uncomfortable, and in doing so you make the world a better place. And knowing that, you can change that mindset of thinking that you can get away with a average job, and then live the rest of your life out comfortably doing whatever you want. You need to open your eyes to the understanding that you have a load to carry, and it is heavy, and it is uncomfortable, and it is what keeps evil at bay. And if you don't shoulder that load, and if enough people don't shoulder that load, like I've been encountering, evil breaches.